Welcome to Devotions from Israel, a 5-minute word of encouragement. Today's passage is Habakkuk, chapter 3. Today's word of encouragement comes from one of the minor prophets, as we call them. And it's not a specific story or a narrative from the Old Testament. And yet I think it's a profound word of encouragement that uses the imagery of fig trees, olive trees, and grapes or vineyards. Habakkuk used what was before him, the culture of the day, the terrace gardening of the hill country, perhaps, where figs and olives and vineyards were seen everywhere. Habakkuk was a prophet who served God and his people at the end of the 7th century BC. Now, things were not going well for the country at this point. In fact, other prophets were sharing words of warning and judgment. And yet Habakkuk found a word of encouragement, even in the midst of these trying days. And this is what we read from chapter 3. Verse 17, "Though the fig tree does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crop fails, and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen, and no cattle in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God, my Savior." How can we find joy when things aren't going well? When there are no figs or olives or grapes, when our sheep pen is empty perhaps and our cattle are not providing for us. Those were dire situations when these kinds of agricultural challenges, and even with the sheep and the cows not producing or sustaining, these were troubling days. And yet Habakkuk still found a way to find joy in the Lord. How could he do that? Well, perhaps his perspective in life was not on the temporal things of life, and yet they were fastened on God and who he was. You see, his heart was fastened, his heart was trusting in the God who could provide even in the most dire of situations. I love that last verse, don't you? "Yet I will rejoice in the Lord, and I will be joyful in God, my Savior." Sometimes in our trials of life, it's much, much better not to try to answer the why questions of life. They oftentimes go unanswered. I think a rather better way of approaching life is through a perspective that focuses on not the why, but the who. And I think this was the key for Habakkuk, finding joy in who God was. May your heart find encouragement today and joy in the who of who God is. Until next time, shalom.